we will do maybe just 5 minutes of the story of Kubo, how did it start and that stuff. And then after that we will do a little bit of a demo here. And then you can play with it also, and we can tell you also what the future will be, which is big. So.
First of all, I have to ask you if it is possible to take photos.
You can take photos. I do think that there is a form that, because we may also take photos, so I think there's a form that she's going to ask everybody to sign, right? Okay.
If you take photos, just one thing.
You can't take of this.
This one is not released on the market yet, so we don't want.
Okay.
So, but yeah. So take off this one, put it on this. No.
No.
Yeah. So okay. So to start with, so Kubo is new. It's new to the market, and if you go back and you look at the history of coding and programming, that's also fairly new to kids that there's younger, right? So from kindergarten and up. That industry, I think, it's fair to say, started maybe 5, 6, 7 years ago, and then more and more and more different education ministries are making it part of the mandatory topics that there has to be covered in a classroom. So that's why it's relevant, because it's just like, you know, you have Italian, you have math, you have all the different ones. So and Kubo's also it's within the STEM process, right? So it's within that. So the idea, it was two students, Tommy and Daniel. They had this idea to build a robot that could teach kids coding and programming. And they did a lot of research, and there was their master's program. And long story short, they did a lot of research with schools, and they came up with this idea where you have the Kubo, and explained a little bit more about how that works, with the body and the head and the technology, and then the tactiles. That's how it reads, right? So long story short, basically they had this idea, and then they entered a couple of competitions. So one is called the Web Summit, which actually is taking place in Portugal each year, and it's technology that there has been innovation technology, right? So to give you an idea about how big it is, there's 2,000 entries. So there's 2,000. Here's an idea what you think about it. So there's 2,000, and out of the 2,000, there's 600 that's picked to sort of the final round. And in Portugal, when this takes place, the Web Summit, there's 70,000 spectators, 70,000 who travels in for it from all over the world. And Kubo won the award of the best startup of the year. So when you have an idea, there's a university idea, and it then wins prizes like that. There was also a finalist at the BET show in London. I don't know if you know the BET show, but it's very popular, at least in this parts of the world. It also won the Dubai, the Middle East award. So we won Guess award. So we won all kinds of awards. And then on top of that, we happen to be located where there's a lot of robotics in Odense. There's actually 128 companies that focus on robotics. So all that stuff combined, you have robotics here, you win all those prizes, then you have investors, and then the investors together with the founders said it has to go out to market. Okay, that's the history. Is that about right? Yeah, because I'm the, yeah. So Jan was the first employee, and he knows it better than me. So so this is Kubo, and I think also you will see it different from some of the companies we compete with, like the Cubetto or the Bebop and those, because you already know that there's a coding set plus. So if you have a Bebop or Blue Button, that's a robot. It was developed 8 years ago, and it's the same now as it was 8 years ago. It's the same. So those will all of a sudden at one point become obsolete, right? There won't be a market for it because the market has developed. This won't, because there is new coding ideas. Also, the technology in here, we can, if we need to update it, there's a Bluetooth, so it can be updated. Or you can also actually put technology in a tactile like this, roll it over, and it's updated. So there's a number of advantages with that. Before we get into the demo, then the other thing I want to say, so we are in the Italian markets. So we have a partner in Italy, as of 2 months ago.
Yeah.
Ligra. Yeah, you know them.
I found it on internet.
You found it on the internet. So Ligra is a partner, and there's a big conference in Florence next week for people all over Italy coming to.
Autodidacta?
Yeah,
Yes.
So are you gonna be there?
No, because now we are
You're
here.
here,
Can't ask the headmaster if you can go there to.
Yeah. But have you heard about you?
We had to choose or Denmark or Florence.
Yeah. But you can go and then tell after, right? No. That's okay. so
better not asking.
Yeah, that's right. So I will be there also, and we have many sessions. We have a display, we have a keynote. So we are gonna exhibit Kubo there. They have 43 resellers. So that's in the local cities. There's 3 or 4 in Rome and Milano and the different places. So those 43 resellers, Liqua, they sell it, and then their network of 43 other businesses sell it. So that's how it's marketed in Italy. So if you go to your headmaster and you say you want Kubo in your school, that's where you would do it. It's not via us. We don't sell like that. So it's via Liqua, and it's via the local shops we have. So that's the network. It's in the catalog. It's on the website. The whole thing, right? But it will be introduced to the school system in Italy next week at the doctor's shop next week, right? So now we're ready for the demo. Do you want to do that, Jan?
Yeah, I can.
You know what? You? No? Anyone?
Anyone? I can do it.
Yeah, you do it.
So he's in sales. That's why.
Yeah.
You can buy it.
We're not trying to sell here. We're just telling you where it is if you want it. You can't buy it here, but you can buy it there.
So have you heard a bit about it before? You've seen it before. Okay. So it's a little educational robot. When you put the head on, lights up. So it's the way you connect.
Okay.
What it does is reading these tactiles, and it's basically just a puzzle piece with a chip inside.
Okay.
So when Kubo runs over the chip, it reads and then reacts to it. So you start off in year 4, just building roots. So you just put the tactiles together, and then you learn something about right and left and what is the logic behind Kubo. So this is the first step, and you can do this already in kindergarten. When you know this, you can introduce these two, and it's function tactiles. So like when you write a code, you start with a bracket and you end with a bracket. So it's actually the same syntax. You start with the function tactile and you end with the function tactile.
Okay.
So when Kubo reads this, he knows to record, not to play the tactiles, but just record them. So instead of reacting to the tactiles,
It shows with the color in it too, right?
Yeah.
it will now remember the commands. So right here you actually program your robot for the first time. Simple and easy, totally hands-on. And then you can play it on a play tactile. So the whole system is hands-on, no screens at all. Only use the tactiles to learn to code. So this is pretty easy, basic, a bit more complicated. Then you can introduce these. It's loop tactiles, so when you want to repeat something. So you build a function again. There's no difference between the red and the blue. The only difference is that the color is different. So you have 2 different kind of functions. I'll explain that in a moment. So instead of making a function with 8 forwards, you can put it in a loop. So you have a start loop where you have a definition of how many times you want it to loop, the command you want to loop, and then you end the loop. So again, Kubo reads the tactiles and remembers them. You can build code in front or after. Then again, because it's the red function, you play it on the red tactile. So now it will run 8 times forward. So the reason why you have two different functions, two different colors, is that you can use them in the other one. You can build a subroutine. So when Kubo goes through this, he knows the code, or it knows the code, in the blue play tactile. So you can actually just put the blue in here. And when Kubo runs through this code, it will now still a loop. It will loop 8 times. It will loop the blue function. So this 8 times. So now it will run this 8 times.
Yeah.
So you go from something very basic to something a bit more advanced to something really advanced. All hands-on, easy. And then you know the syntax, when you read it, is more or less what you would go to on a drag and drop system on a tablet afterwards. So Scratch or Lego Redo or something like that.
Yeah.
So it's made for actually getting interest in the kids, so they get interest to actually learn and use technology later on. So when you start using technology in middle school or later in life, you actually drop some kids because they want to play football, or they want to do something else. But it's important that they have a basic understanding of this. Yes.
So now you're teachers and you like to do things. So we're gonna have you program, I think. Okay. So it goes hand in hand also with the website that we have, because there's a lesson plans. So the teachers will go in and there's I think it's about 15 hours of lesson plans. You can break it down in 15-minute segments or 30 or whatever you want to do. But there's lessons plans for the teachers. There's a startup guide for the teachers. So any teacher, no matter if you have knowledge of this or not, can go in and work with the students. So as Jan also said, so it starts out very simple, it becomes more complex, right? So now we're gonna ask you to, and you can use the ones that's in here as well, like the last ones, and so you can use that as well. So if you can get Kubo to go from here to here.
Right.